Welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner, licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. Moments of Clarity's mission is to educate and end the stigma on mental health through the inspirational stories of our exceptional guests. You can join in the show by calling Tiffany toll-free at 866-826-1340 or on Facebook and Twitter at MOC with Tiffany. Now, here's Tiffany Werner.
Hi, thanks for listening. This is Moments of Clarity. I'm Tiffany Werner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. I'm excited for today. We have a caller all the way from Hawaii, and I want to say hi to Ed before we start the show. Hi, Ed.
It's rough today.
It's rough?
Well, it was good last night. The Rays won their playoff game, but didn't end until like 11-something, so...
You're tired?
Then the celebration continued for a little while, so...
Well, welcome here.
But there's nothing wrong with a power nap after work, so...
Yeah, it's for sure. And yeah, I'm proud of the Tampa Bay Rays, for sure. Anyway, so, okay, our guest today, he is a veteran. He's served our country. He's also a military officer, a police officer for the military. He's calling in from Hawaii. It's 6 a.m. there. Thank you. Bless his heart. And he's also a therapist. And we're going to be discussing suicide prevention today. And he's very passionate about this. He publishes a lot of things, and they are all over Google. And I want to welcome to Moments of Clarity, Wayne Honcomer.
Well, thank you.
Hi, Wayne.
Good morning.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon.
Yes,
I'm a little confused.
Well, I give you a lot of props. You messaged me at 5 a.m. your time and was up drinking coffee and getting ready for the show to share your journey, and I really appreciate that. What is it like? What part of Hawaii?
I live on the Big Island of Hawaii, on the southern part of that, in a town called Na'arehu. And that's about as far south as you can get in the United States. And there's a monument down there on South Point itself that says where it actually is. And it's the original landing place for the Hawaiians when they arrived to the Hawaiian Islands was this island and in this community. So it has ancient origins.
Wow. They say in Key West, that's the southernmost point of the United States, but I think it's the continental.
Been there too, but it's far more mountainous here. I mean, I'm sitting on Mauna Loa, which is the largest mountain in the entire world.
Wow.
You go down from sea bottom up. Yeah, it's immense. It's bigger than half the Cascade complex.
That's amazing. I haven't been out there yet. I want to go.
Yeah, you should.
A lot of people want to. It's expensive.
Geologist. He fills me in. Oh, it's pretty expensive. I can't deny that, but you can't beat the weather, and I don't need a heater.
We don't need that in Florida really either, but
I don't need a heater.
It's a whole different world.
I don't even need air conditioning. It's temperate all the time here.
That's nice. We definitely need air conditioning here.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wayne, let's go back to where it all started and where you found your moment of clarity. And don't forget, I ring a bell every time you say moment of clarity. But what brought you on your journey to suicide prevention and becoming a therapist after being a veteran and a military officer and all of that?
There's a lot of story in there. If I go way back to the beginning before I joined the service, I was looking for something to do while I was waiting to go on active duty. And so I called Catholic Services and said, hey, I hear about the suicide prevention stuff. I'd like to get trained in that. And they said, well, that sounds great. I said, yeah, I'd like to do that before I go into the Marine Corps. And they said, since you're going to go in, so that wouldn't be beneficial to us to train you, then you just go away. I said, oh, okay, so I just kind of dropped it for a long time. But my moment of clarity came when I was in Germany. I was the deputy commander for security at the security forces squadron. It was 600 people there, but I was the deputy commander for it. And we had been trained in crisis intervention. So we formed a crisis intervention team in March, I believe, of 1996, shortly after I had arrived there after a short tour down at Gitmo. And so we were trained, and then I was home in my house off base, and I got a call that said that we had a CT-43, which is like a Boeing 737, crash in Dubrovnik, Croatia. And the entire crew was killed, along with Commerce Secretary at the time, and his name escapes me at the moment because it's so early here. But he died, and the news came across CNN and said a CT-43 had crashed in Dubrovnik, Croatia, and everyone was killed. So we had a crew of 5 aboard there. So I got busy, and I was helping take care of the crews, and I sent my teams out to be with each of the families that had lost a crew member. And so myself, the people that I had assigned to go to the co-pilot's house, Miss Schaefer, as I recall, weren't available. So I put myself on it, and I went to her home, and I worked with her, and we got through 6, 7, 8, 9 days of all kinds of things, like a farewell ceremony where people came and they did the flyover, and we it was just heart-wrenching. And we got through that, too. And then shortly after that, it was time for her to go, because back in those days, if you lost a family member, you were told you had about a month to get your stuff packed up and go back to the mainland. So when it was about time to say goodbye to Pat Schaefer...
That's kind of rough, if you think about it, right?
Sorry, yeah, they don't do that anymore. They
you can
now
go out of here.
It's a year. Yeah, they got a year to get everything together and move out. But back then it was 30 days. So I was sitting with her and starting to say goodbye, and I said I wasn't going to see her anymore. And she says, you just did a magnificent job. How long have you been a therapist? And I looked at her and I said, Pat, I'm a police officer, the deputy commander for security forces here at Ramstein. And she said, Wayne, you should be a therapist. And I said, yeah, I should be.
Wow. You're the deputy commander for security forces? Is that what I heard?
Deputy commander for security forces. I was enlisted for a while, and I protected Minuteman missiles and at Whiteman. I had already had my degree, but I had a child and a wife, and my baby got sick, and I said I need to do something about it. So I quit my job and joined the Air Force, and that's how I got into the Air Force. And then after a year and a half, I applied, and I was accepted for officer school. So I got commissioned the day before the Iranians captured our embassy in Tehran. So I always would remember when my commissioning date was, because it was November 5th. Anyway,
the anniversary's coming up.
So I got commissioned, and that led to one job after another, and that I was assigned as the commander for security forces at Cheyenne Mountain. And this is how I got started in suicide prevention. It's kind of weird, but here's the whole story. I was watching a training video over our satellite system on how to take care of your unit if there's been a loss. And then in that training, we talked about hostage negotiations, and I wanted to get some hostage negotiators that I had recently been trained by the FBI to get into doing work with a local suicide prevention organization because they said that kind of crisis work will help keep their skills sharp. And I said, that's a great idea. I'm going to go out there and find the local suicide prevention agency in Colorado Springs and link up my guys and get them trained so they can get real experience talking to people that want to die. And so I went out and I tried to find an organization, and there wasn't one. So I called AAS, the American Association for Suicidology in Washington, and they told me about this lady, Larita Archibald. And they said, Larita runs a suicide postvention group, and you should talk to her because she's active in that area, and she might be able to help you get your guys trained. So I called Larita, and bless her heart, she's still alive. This was back in 1993, I think, 1993. So I'm talking to her, and I say, I've been looking for a place for my guys to get linked up with their suicide prevention organization. So I suppose you guys have a hotline, and that would be a great thing for them to get into. She said, Wayne, we don't have a hotline in Colorado Springs. We don't have one at all. I said, oh, that's awful. She said, well, maybe you should come to our meeting. And I was hooked. I went to the meeting, and a month later, I was on the board of directors. And so,
of course you were. Of course you were. You're the deputy commander for security forces. I couldn't imagine you not getting on the board of directors for anything.
Yeah. Well, I went to their meetings, and I looked at them, and I started talking to them about that first meeting, and they said they didn't have a brick and mortar operation. They didn't have a hotline. And I said, and they had some money already, donated. And I said, what are you waiting for? I said, if you don't put things into motion, nothing's going to happen. Let's get this ball rolling, and I'll help. And I did. And so, that's why I got on the board of directors. We got everything rolling, and we trained up the first increment of suicide prevention hotline workers for Colorado Springs. An organization is still there. It's called the Suicide Prevention Partnership, the Pikes Peak region. Later, that organization morphed into doing other things like crisis intervention. They put together a couple of training packages and talked to the commanding general down at Fort Carson, which is also in the Colorado Springs area. And they had bought into getting that kind of training, too. I can't remember the general's name right now, but...
it was a long time ago. And you don't need to throw out names either. It doesn't matter.
No, but he was a great guy. So that training was well received at Air Force installations there and the Army installation, and they started to export that in a way. So long story short, my job at Cheyenne Mountain was ending, so I got a long CDY down to Guantanamo Bay as the provost marshal. So I went down there for about 5 months, 4.5, 5 months. And while I was there, I got my assignment notification to go to Germany. Almost simultaneously, I learned from my friends back in Colorado Springs, they were going to Ramstein Air Base to do a training for the Air Force. And I said, oh, you just got to be kidding me. I just got assigned there. How about that? So
you could spread the wealth.
Yes. So I'm going to Germany and set up an organization for crisis intervention support that I had already been trained in at what was Falcon Air Station, and I've forgotten the name they called it. It doesn't matter. There in Colorado Springs. And so we started we formed that at Ramstein, and I became the base installation co-chair for that, along with the head chaplain. And that's how I got started in mental health, was